involved in this?
All right, everybody. Disclaimer notice: this is not going to be a positive podcast. So,
Why not?
For a positive spin on the race, you're certainly entitled to your own opinion, but you might not get much of it here. So, tune out. I'm just telling you right now. Just tune out if you're like these guys are too negative. I mean, maybe Jordan's not going to be, but I know how I feel about it. So, we can all spare each other. We would go our separate ways for this week. It's fine. No hard feelings. Anyway, my name's Jeff Gluck. I'm along with Jordan Bianchi, who is at Bristol Motor Speedway. I had FOMO going into tonight, Jordan, about not being at Bristol Motor Speedway. That was quickly erased. So
what moment did it go away for you? Was it the first practice session when you realized that there was no tire wear?
I was super fired up. I was super fired up coming into tonight. I was like really amped up, really hyped for this race.
Even with the issue, like no tire wear and this.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a cutoff race. You never know what's going to happen. It's just like, I don't know. It's Bristol, baby. Like it's an elimination race at a short track. It's one of the best tracks in NASCAR. Like, how could you not be fired up for this? The cut line was super close. Yeah, but it's just as the race went on, you're just like, oh no, oh boy, oh here we go, oh no, and then it just, I mean, what do you think, Jordan? Do you have a nice night there at Bristol?
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. I think we all agree that going into this race, we had an idea of what this was going to be. After what we saw in the spring and this unpredictable drivers racetrack, veteran who know how to save their tires are going to have the advantage. All of the chaos of the first two races, it's all going to come down to Bristol. It's going to be dramatic for all the reasons you just laid out. It's Bristol, baby, short track. Like, all right, these guys are going to be put to the test. We are setting the table for an epic night. And we didn't get it. And none of what we anticipated or thought we got. Bracing was uneventful. The tire wear was non-existent. The passing was limited. And we got a rather monotonous cutoff race, which is unfortunate because that's not how this should be, especially at a track like Bristol. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's my overwhelming sentiment too, is it's not like an anger thing, right? Like you say, you're not mad, you're disappointed. I mean, that's what it was, right? Like it was a total letdown. It was just such a disappointing night because everybody was so excited for it. And like, I mean, take the racing aside. Like, first of all, you had, what are the tires going to do? I mean, you had this unbelievable Bristol race in the spring, right? Like that was one of the all-time great NASCAR race. I enjoyed it so much. It was everything you were looking for in a lot of senses, even though it was an accident with the tire wear. Like it was so exciting. And then you just thought, well, if you even get like, okay, let's say it's not exactly like that. Let's say it's not tires blowing every 50 laps, but hey, maybe the teams have adjusted on it. Denny on Actions Detrimental said, the teams will figure it out. Right. And Steve Letarte on Dirty Modo said, they might be able to get 20% more laps out of it just on changes they would make, setup changes wise. So maybe they get 12 more laps out of it with the tire. Okay. So maybe the last 100 laps even. Then you say, okay, well, it is warmer. Yeah. So maybe the weather is going to make a difference in the tire part of it. So, okay, but maybe it'll still wear, but it's warmer. So we don't know how long. And then, well, maybe there's rubbers laid down on the track from other series. So, that's why we won't see as much. But all those things still don't seem to add up to me, in my mind, to account for this extreme dramatic fall off in the spring compared to like 0 and no issues at all. I mean, it was like they were going to have to pit for gas. Tires were not even a thing. So you had that element of it in terms of like the disappointment level. You're like, all right, well, okay, I guess tires are not going to be, we're not going to see that. All right. But still, it's an elimination race. There's still things that can happen. And then you start to realize, oh, they can't really pass. Like Martin Truex Jr. was running second? He was going to have a top 3 car, gets a speeding penalty, restarts 24th, finishes 24th, according to my notes. He could not pass Colleague and Rick Ware cars with his playoffs on the line to just even get around them. Ty Gibbs had a problem coming back through the field. Ultimately, through several pit stops and attrition, was able to get back up to, well, and he ended up fading to 15th, but he got back up to 7th, 8th or something like that after a penalty. As we've seen over and over, the cars are running the same speed. It's tough to pass, track position, dirty air, whatever you want to say. And it's like, man, like, here's my thing, Jordan. You can say, well, there's solutions, whatever, but ultimately where I want to see is NASCAR just cannot settle for this as the short track product. This cannot be what is acceptable in any way. Like, this cannot be like, well, we've tried some things and this is just how it's going to be now. Like, that just cannot happen. Like, the history of NASCAR short track racing is way too rich and way too meaningful to the sport to just go, this car just doesn't race that well there. And, everybody's tried to say, well, maybe the tires will be the thing. But if you can't figure out what you even did to the tires in the first place, maybe that's not the solution. So I don't know what you do. I don't know how you fix this. I don't know that anybody does, but this just, wherever it lands, this just can't be the thing, because this is, it's not a crown jewel, but it's a shining moment for NASCAR. It's a special night for NASCAR. This is an amazing place, an amazing race. It should be something that goes back to selling out and people get hyped up for. And you shouldn't go there being like, man, I feel like duped. I feel like what did I see? And just real quick, Jordan, I know I'm going off, sorry. But to be clear, this is not about one driver's dominance. This is not about Larson leading 462 laps. That happens sometimes, right? This is about the entire race as a whole, the entire thing not being what we wanted to see throughout the field. 5 cautions, 4 different leaders the whole race, 8 lead changes the whole night. The guy winning by 7 seconds. It all adds up. Yes, the dominance is part of it, but you still could have had a great race with a dominant performance, in my opinion. But this just wasn't it.
The problem for me is we have got to the point with the next gen car where it feels like you are out of levers, as you like to say, right? What can you do to make the next gen car better? And I feel like we've kind of come to a consensus on this show and really across the industry that if you're going to make the racing better on short tracks, it comes down to tires. It comes down to tire wear. We saw it here in the spring. We saw it in the first 30 laps at Richmond. We've seen it other times where there have been where there's tire wear and drivers are having to manage a little bit, because in this next gen era and everybody's in this tight box and there's very little speed differential between, the big teams and the small teams, and it's so hard to pass. The one thing you can control is tire wear. And if you have tire wear, that's going to create more of a speed differential that you need to set up passing. And then you have situations like tonight. If you would have had tire wear, Martin Truex Jr. would have had to make a choice of saying, listen, I need to charge to the front and I'm going to burn up my tires, but I need to get my track position back. And that's a choice I'm going to make because I have to. But I also may pay the price in the long run because I may end up not having tires, and then I'm going to be sliding back and people are going to be passing me. That is what you do. To me, I agree with you. The short track package, or the short tracks, need to be better. You cannot have races like this. You cannot have races like at Martinsville that is upcoming have been what they have been so often over the years. It's unacceptable. But I don't think you can do anything with the car. I feel like you have done everything. You've tried everything and you still kind of up in the same box. To me, it comes down to tire wear. And I understand that Goodyear, they came here and they tested, and we had the same thing that happened in the spring. We had it during the test. How can you come here after having a test and not have what you thought was going to happen? Like, and everybody after practice yesterday was like, threw up their hands and said, we have no idea. We have no idea what happened. Like, it is baffling to me on why that happened. You fix the tires, this race tonight is 1,000 times better.
I mean, it is so bizarre. And I wish there was a clearer explanation, because logically none of this makes sense, right? Like Twitter, all these people are like, well, I told you, of course it was the weather or whatever. I just don't think it's that simple. Or of course the track rubbered in. You had the smartest, first Goodyear thought it was going to be another high wear race. NASCAR thought it was going to be another high wear race. The crew chiefs, the teams, most
drivers.
Like
pick someone.
The driver, Joey Logano came in to the media center yesterday and was like, oh, I think it's going to be another similar thing. Brad Keselowski said they set their car up to be a high wear race. Like, it's not just, well, we guessed wrong and whatever. I just, something happened in the spring. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's Denny's tinfoil hat theory that he said last week, where they put something into the mixture.
I'm starting to believe that, by the way.
I mean, but what is the explanation? If it's not that, if it wasn't something in the mixture, I don't want to speculate, because it's not responsible, but I cannot fathom what.
When's that ever stopped you?
Oh, that's not nice. It just, I just don't get it. I really don't. How could it go from one extreme to another? And also, let's say it was the weather. Okay. If you want to go down the road of the weather made the whole difference in the same tire, how alarming is it? Because you can't plan for the weather 6 months out at a tire test. You can't. This could have been a 60 degree day or 90 degree day or something like that, right? Like, and so if the tires are that sensitive to temperature to get a completely dramatically different kind of race, like that's alarming. But I do think the tires are also a little bit of a scapegoat, right? Like, I mean, you're saying the tires got to be changed. It's convenient to shift all the blame to the tires when the car has to have a lot of this blame.
I'm not really shifting the blame per se. I'm not. My thing is we can't really. It doesn't feel like we can do anything to the car to fix it. So the car is what the car is at this point. Does that make sense? And unless you're going to make like sweeping changes to it that are going to be, somebody's going to have to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. The car is the car. But the thing that you can change, that you have more control over, seemingly, at least we thought, was the tires. And that's my point.
Yeah, and maybe it's the tire compound, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's that the PJ1, the resin. I don't know. I hope they can get to the bottom of it, but whatever the reason is, sort of what we were sold to watch this race with is just not what happened, and it's just I just don't know where you go from here, because it doesn't sound like Martinsville or Phoenix or I hate to be I hate to look too far ahead and go, well, they're not going to be good races. You just never know. But it's like, dang, man, like, and again, I went into this race fully hyped. And so maybe part of the disappointment is that my expectations were so high, but this feels like maybe the worst Bristol race I've ever watched. Like, it was such a disappointment. It was like
I messaged you that during the race. Two things. I said, buzzkill. This is a complete buzzkill. And I said, is this the worst Bristol race in recent memory?
I was doing a YouTube live, just watching the race from home here and reacting. And a couple comments I wanted to pass along to you that I just thought were really, wow. First of all, Derek Lacey had said, if this wasn't a playoff race with a points battle to talk about, what would they even discuss on the broadcast right now? And I was like, oof.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about that being able to save I mean, it was still bad, but that's what, if not for that, and it was just Larson just leading the whole thing and just nobody else doing anything. Like, oh man. The second thing was GN NASCAR fan 24 had said, thank goodness Kansas is next week. Imagine saying that 10 to 15 years ago after the Bristol night race. People would have called you insane, but that's the case.
10
like,
years ago,
thank goodness.
3 years ago, like 2001, 2021, you go back then and like, oh, Kansas, 1.5 mile racetrack. Oh, Bristol, like, it's just such a juxtaposition. And now it's completely flipped where now people are like, hell yeah, Kansas. That's the best. That's the best of the best now.
I mean, I do feel optimism for Kansas. So that's a positive. We won't be sitting here next week, hopefully, saying what happened, because that's going to be amazing. Kansas should sell out. Kansas is freaking awesome. It's my favorite.
At this point, just replace all short track races with Kansas races. I think would be.
But see, and that's the thing. Like, that's what I'm scared of. That's really what I'm scared of, right? Because I just, it's the easy thing to do now would just be like, well, I mean, short tracks just aren't good for the foreseeable future. So let's try something else. And I just feel like it should be all hands on deck. Like, I mean, I feel like we've said this before though, like 5-alarm fire kind of thing.
I just
you can't fix it. Then
what we've gone down this road of like, what really left is there to do? It doesn't seem like when it comes to this side of the equation, it is not my expertise, but there doesn't seem like there can be a whole lot of realistic changes you can make. You can sit there and scream about, more horsepower, more horsepower, more horsepower. It's not happening. It's not. It's not in the cards right now. And I don't know what else you can do to this car, but it doesn't seem like there's much left to tweak and adjust and do whatever. The car is the car at this point.
I mean, on the positive side of it, it was a completely straightforward race. There wasn't, I've been all fired up about, oh man, these are fluky races and you're taking out the best drivers and all that stuff. As Dustin Albino pointed out on Twitter, ultimately the number 14 seed, 15 seed, 16 seed got eliminated along with the number 8 seed. So there was all this thought of me massively included that big names were going to be eliminated from this round, because as you have said, this was the craziest round ever. And that wasn't the case. Like,
no.
All the big names survived. I mean, you could say, well, wait a minute, Truex is a huge name. He's future Hall of Famer, past champion. But the way he was running,
there's
I
mean, a mild surprise that he was eliminated. You thought he would still, especially with the way once you get past Atlanta, it's like Watkins Glen's a good track for him. Here's a good track for him. And honestly, if it wasn't for a speeding penalty, he may have moved on. So, oops.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about the various playoff fortunes, but ultimately, it was nobody got caught up in somebody else's wreck to get eliminated, right?
I did think there was a moment towards the end of the race that Gibbs and Suarez were there might be something there. And, Gibbs was getting frustrated and they're, racing obviously for that last spot. I thought, okay, all right, we might have this is getting a little spicy. This could be the moment we're looking for. And then that fizzled too.
Well, I mean, I was unsure if Gibbs even knew that Suarez was the one he was chasing. Like, I assume that the team probably told him, and I didn't hear his radio chatter. I was scanning all 16, but I assume that the team is telling him, hey, you're X amount of points out. You're X amount of points out. He's sliding backwards anyway. He ended up missing it by 11.
Yeah.
But, does he even know that Suarez is the one on the cut line? So if he wrecks Suarez or something, but by the way, I think in today's NASCAR after the Austin Dillon penalty, if anything looked intentional at all to take another playoff driver,
you get one.
Not it. I don't know that they would have let
Actually, I'll take that back. I'll tell you what, after the way this race unfolded, NASCAR might have let that go because they wouldn't need it.
Yeah.
They might have sent Ty Gibbs a gift basket saying, hey, thanks.
Yeah. I just man, I just feel like I don't even know how to describe it. Just totally, I'm totally shocked. And again,
it's like getting socks for Christmas.
Socks for Christmas. You don't even like Christmas, so that would be like a double whammy for you.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should vote in the Good Race poll right now before we move on, because
Let's do it,
I don't want
baby.
to give you too much time. You've beaten me twice in a row here to open the playoffs. Big Joe Wall keeping track of this. We've been close, but I can't let you get too far into this. And so I want to just get you on the record, not have a chance to text all your friends.
Oh, they've already been rolling in on it. They've already
okay.
rolling in unprompted.
Okay.
There's a lot of fired up people. Quick question for you, since you have the official record keeping. What is the lowest Bristol race? And you know where I'm going on this. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I knew you were going to ask this. So there's a couple categories for this. The All-Star race at Bristol was a dud. Got 51.9. Okay. The lowest points race ever at Bristol was 60.7. Clearly, this is going to be the lowest points race ever at Bristol. By the way, even the Bristol Dirt, all the Bristol Dirt races were above that.
See, just imagine how much better this race would have been if it was on the dirt tonight.
Oh my gosh. People were coming at me saying this, and it's hard to argue. That's what's sad about it. That made me, that hurts. And now I don't want dirt back. Please don't think that. It's tough to defend. It's tough to defend. I mean, yeah, I mean, this one was more worth a wrap than the last Bristol Dirt even, but anyway, so yes. So clearly it's going to be below 50. It's just how low is it going to go is my saying. Sure. And you get to kick that off. So.
I think it's going to be low. I don't, unless you're a Kyle Larson fan, or I guess a Denny Hamlin fan, because your driver jumped in the above the cut line. I don't know how you vote yes for this. Is 20 too low, Jeff? Is 20 too low?
Well, here's
I'm not saying that's my number. Not saying that's my number. I'm just saying it's 20 too low. I mean, honestly, like, I had somebody message me, a friend of ours, and they were like 18%, and I'm like, that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, I was hoping you would go a little bit higher, because I don't want to be forced into going.
I'm going to go 20. I said 20. I'm going to go 20. That's the pick.
Ooh, you're putting me in a really tough position here.
How could you give me just hype it before? I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Let's just flip this for a second. Could you make if you were going to vote yes, like what would you like? What are you voting for? You're a Hendrick fan? You're
a Larson fan. You respect dominance.
But like
there were the battles. There was good battles. It was just with lapped cars, because they were all going the same speed that the leaders couldn't get around the lap cars. So the best battles of the night were people trying to stay on the lead lap or not go multiple laps down, or whatever,
there was a couple times there with Hamlin, Briscoe, Truex.
Oh, they went 3 wide.
Yeah, they were there, and that was there was fleeting moments. You raise a good point. I will say, I guess not, it wouldn't matter. But I was gonna say, if Larson wasn't in this race and it was more open, would that have changed things? Maybe.
I don't even again. I really don't think it was the dominance that
I don't think it was either, though. I just think it was just, you could tell, and it was not. So what made the spring race so good among the many? It was so enthralling. It like hooked you, because you didn't know what was going to happen next. It was like, oh my goodness, is so-and-so going to be able to manage his tires? Oh, he's really pushing it here. That kind of thing. It added an element of the unknown. There was none of that tonight.
Yeah, it definitely felt like you were waiting for something to happen, and then nothing ever really happened. Even the moment where they got to NASCAR's credit on this one, like there was that caution with for Logano with like 6 to go or something in stage 2. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, are they going to run out the stage? And then they didn't. They got pit road open really quick. And then they went back to green for a 2-lap shootout where Reddick stayed out, but for stage points. But even then you were like, nothing really. Larson just jumped right back to the lead, and that was just kind of it. But I don't know. There wasn't like a moment from this race where you're like, oh yeah, like there's nothing that they could put in to the highlight reel from this race, in my opinion. Right?
No, Kyle Larson crossing the finish line. That's about it.
Yeah, Owen riding on the.
Yeah, that's it. Driving down
Yeah.
pit road or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your number?
Oh, so you are doing 20?
I'm doing 20. Yeah, 20 is my number.
Okay. I didn't know if we were
Yep. No,
waffling
20.
on
20
that.
no,
Sorry.
I
Okay.
said it. Sorry.
Sorry.
20 is my number.
My bad.
Nope. No, my fault.
Man, this is really tough because if I blow this, I'm in a big hole for the playoffs here.
Lemonade stand, Jeff. Come on, baby.
I just 20. It's really okay. So here's what I was going to say. I've done 329 races in this poll.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 329 races, only 7 have been below 20%.
Okay.
That's a pretty tough thing to happen. Could this join that group of infamy? I don't know. This was a huge letdown and disappointing, but by the time everybody votes tomorrow morning, maybe it's not. Maybe there's enough of a segment to get it over that. It's pretty hard to go below that. So, this is really tough. Dang it. I can't believe you put me in this position. Sorry. All right. I'm just going to stop holding up the podcast.
Oh, this is great.
I will go 20.1. I'll just try to go higher. That's all I got. Sorry. Were you hoping I would go lower?
No, I'm just pissed that you've done that stupid 0.1 crap.
Oh, I mean, who cares? Like, I have to do what I have to do. I don't want to run a lemonade stand. So, I mean,
whatever.
Sorry. I got to do what it takes to win, buddy.
That's
Sorry.
cheap.
This is the playoffs.
Cheap. You just Austin Dillon'd it.
No, that was totally fair move. I mean, it's hard racing, but you got to do what you got to do. I got to win. I don't care. Sorry. Anyway,
whatever.
Well, I don't know if this would have been much of an upset, betting wise, because if you listen to Dirty Modo, I mean, Larson is not exactly a surprise, but so people probably aren't going to be cashing many big bets. But if you are into sports betting, hey, we've got a full NFL Sunday tomorrow. So that's good. The race didn't get rained out. We can all sit and watch football. And you can do that on FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats view, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you also get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go to fanduel.com/teardown. If I can say the name of our own podcast, that's fanduel.com/teardown. Use our code Never Waste a Hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in North Carolina. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. So let's talk about some of the playoff drivers, unless you want to talk more about tires.
No,
I'm sure that there will be. Let me leave it on this before we move on from the tires. There's got to be, somebody's got to come up with an explanation. I think, like,
it's been 6 months or whatever it's been.
No. Like about tonight versus.
But I understand what you're saying. I get, but they can't explain what happened back in the spring. So
somebody needs to be accountable for that and say
that there is going to be an explanation about what happened to tonight. Like, I don't know. My faith in Goodyear is getting lower and lower in this, and that they are able to build an effective tire on a consistent basis, because it doesn't happen.
Well, that's a problem. And so again, there needs to be some sort of accountability or explanation, whether from Goodyear themselves or NASCAR or whatever, but you can't have sort of like this inconsistency, because as I was saying, the race played out straight up, but I don't want to see in future, whether it's championship races or cutoff races, teams showing up and on the day of the race going, I have no idea what this tire is going to do. The tire, a key element of the racing, It's not the same. We don't know why. We can't explain it. There's all these theories. That shouldn't be like, that should be a known quantity, right? Like that should be like, all right, this we know. The setup, we're not sure how our setup will change in the race or whatever, right? Like something else. But to have the tire be the wild card factor is a little scary for a championship that is divided into many seasons and one championship race. So
that's Goodyear. Like how many times you go back to the All-Star race this year? You like, hey, this is what it's going to be. We're going to have the alternate tire and it's going to wear and this and that. And it's just like, oh, yeah, okay. Like the off the top of my head, and there's probably some other examples, but the only example I can think of where it felt like Goodyear was correct in its assessment when they said something was going to happen, something new was Richmond with the option tire. Other than that, like, I'm sorry, the record's not that bad, not that good.
Well, it's tough to argue otherwise because it just seems like this was very, I don't know. It was just very inconsistent. It was it's something's not adding up. And so I hope that we get more of an explanation going forward. And I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, you hate to dump on one entity. They're taking a lot of heat, but there's got to be another explanation. Okay. So
right.
Playoff drivers, eventful night for some. What's interesting is, Kelly Crandall pointed this out on Twitter, of all the up and down and all this stuff, ultimately only one spot changes. Denny Hamlin in, Ty Gibbs out. I had predicted for our guesses on The Athletic going into this race that Hamlin would be in, but it would be Chase Briscoe that fell out. I was worried about Briscoe being close to the cut line. I didn't know if he would be able to come with a strong performance. Kudos once again to Chase Briscoe, a heroic drive, even overcome a really bad pit stop, finished 8th, and he wasn't even the best Stewart-Haas car. Ryan Preece finished 7th. So bravo to them for really stepping up. This Briscoe wasn't even a team, obviously, that was in the playoffs until the very last second, makes it, and now is moving on to the next round where, by the way, he's good at the Roval. That could be really key. He could probably run pretty good at Talladega. I don't know how they'll perform at Kansas, but he's going to have a shot. So, that's what you got to do, survive in advance. But ultimately, Ty Gibbs is the one who falls out. And you could say, well, was it the penalty kind of thing? He did get back up to the top 10 at one point, but he misses by 11 points. So he finished 15th. He would have had to run top 5, right? Better than top 5, ultimately, based on where even Suarez, as bad of a night as Suarez had, Daniel Suarez finished 4 laps down and almost coughed up a 36-point lead, 36-point cushion going into tonight, almost evaporated just by no crash or anything like that, just by running terribly in a key elimination race, showed up with no speed. They were able to survive because he had done enough in the first 2 races, right? And, oh, by the way, he would have had the tiebreaker because he finished 2nd at Atlanta. So that's another point Gibbs would have had. So you're really looking at Gibbs would have had to have probably a 3rd place finish to make it. So even without that speeding penalty, I don't know that he does. Same thing for Truex, right? Truex misses by 21 points. He finishes 24th, and he wouldn't have had the tiebreaker. So you're looking at, again, probably top 2 for him. Now, he was running there, but was he going to finish there? I don't know. So you can look at the bubble and go, oh man, these speeding penalties, that was the deciding moment. I'm not sure that was. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do, because Ty Gibbs cost himself stage points. So he gets stage points and it flips, and it changes a little bit, maybe the complexion of where Suarez is at. He's not, okay, well, because the other part of this too is once Truex had his issue, Suarez was basically like, okay, I'm good here. As long as the wheels don't fall off the car, we're okay. So I do think it mattered because it does change how things lay out the rest of the way. No stage points for Ty Gibbs. Truex will only finish second in stage 2, by the way, because he got off pit road great. He jumped 2 spots. Briscoe fell back 2 spots, and he really sneaky move there by Truex to finish second. He did not have a second place car in that stage. He was going to be 5th or 6th or 7th. So he stole some points there. Great move, but then you get the penalty, it knocks it away. So yeah, those are 2 big things. Briscoe point, great run for this team again. Continue with their backs against the wall. Everything going on at SHR. Team is closing down, just grinding out results. We'll see what they can do at Kansas. That's going to be really the crossroads, because if they can go there and show some speed, as you said, he runs well at super speedways, runs well on road courses, but where is their intermediate track program at? And that's going to be the question. That said, he did win at Darlington, and Kansas has tire wear. Darlington has tire wear. There's enough crossover there. So there is a conceivable path for him to move forward, which is remarkable considering this situation.
Yeah. I think, Harrison Burton, you had said last week he had no chance. I was like, well, it's pump the brakes. Maybe there's,
come on. Yeah. Thank you. I can't believe you actually thought he was, really, you really thought he was going to move on. I had a chance to.
No, I didn't think that, but I just thought, hey, if he was only 20 something points out coming in, and I think if you have a career night and you're able to come put something together, you never know what happens. I mean, Justin Allgaier in the Xfinity race had a 43-point lead in the regular season championship, and had a 40, ended up a 46-point swing because he lost it by 3. So,
but the difference there is he was going to not need just one. Cole Custer benefited from one guy having an issue. Harrison Burton is going to need to have 6 or 7. So that
again, look at Chase Briscoe. If you have a night like Briscoe did, where he gets stage points in both and finishes top 10, and
okay, I'm not going to compare Chase Briscoe and Harrison Burton here.
I'm just saying, all right, but okay. So
I'm not trying to bag on Harrison Burton, but the stats are the stats.
I got you. All right, but yeah, so okay, he didn't advance, he didn't move on. Yeah, so I guess these weren't my playoff picks because I had Logano out first round. So these weren't my exact predicted ones. But
what do you think of Brad?
Yeah, I mean Brad. I think
stage points. Throughout the 3 rounds or 3 races.
To me, Atlanta was the huge missed opportunity for Brad.
Huge. When
I look back at it, he finished mid-pack there, disappointing, and I just think that was it, right? Where was he? He was 19th at Atlanta, 26th at the Glen, and then where was he tonight? 26th. Yeah, I mean,
but to me, it was 2 things. Is one, I agree with you on Atlanta. That set a bad tone for what was to come. He got caught up in something or started something at Watkins Glen. He had a good, had fresh tires, and he thought he was going to be able to pick his way forward. It didn't happen. This is his track. This is where RFK usually has been really good.
I know 2 years ago. Yeah.
Well, no, Brad was great in the spring. I mean, I know the tires were different, obviously, but I mean, this is a good track for Brad historically, and to come here and not even give yourself a chance.
But Buescher wasn't a factor either.
No, so they were just off, and it's just your 2 best tracks you were bad at, and you can't do that.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, I don't think. I mean, nothing was a surprise in terms of our pre-playoff picks. I think you had Truex maybe winning the championship or in the Final 4 at least or something.
Away at the beginning of the year, that doesn't count anymore.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I'm just saying we're not surprised. So, there was a little moment there where Reddick, I was a little bit worried about him. He went into the final stage only +8 or +9. Byron slid back so much. I just don't know what to make of Byron's team at this point.
So streaky. They will go through stretches, 3, 4, 5 weeks where they just look unbeatable. They're going to win every stage, lead a bunch of laps, win some races, and you're like, this is it. This is who they are. And then they go silent for 3, 4, 5 races.
So you have guys that have moved on that I don't think, people that we didn't even have in the playoffs. Suarez, before the season, Suarez, Cindric, Briscoe. And, I'm still not thinking that any of those can win the championship. So what are your, Alex Bowman, he had the third most points this round. I don't know if I'm thinking he can win the championship. What's
So
that?
impressive. I just
No,
think
great. Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah.
So there's 12 guys left. And we've talked about at times, we think maybe 6, 7 guys can win the championship. Who is left that you think, yes, this guy can absolutely do it? That you're
who can win the championship?
So Christopher Bell, we agree.
Yep.
That's still my championship pick.
Yep.
You didn't pick him for the championship, right?
No, I did not. But he's definitely in that category of could win the championship.
Okay. Obviously, Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Can Alex Bowman win the title?
No.
Okay, I say no. Can Chase Elliott win the title?
Yes. Needs a little bit of work, but again, he's in a spot like he's Hendrick. I mean, they could find speed tomorrow and they'll be fine. So yes, he could win the title.
Okay. We don't feel great about it, but he finished second tonight, and he could be up there, but we need more. But hey, you find that extra little bit of speed with 5 to go in the playoffs. Yeah. Okay. Austin Cindric. We say no.
No.
But heck of a round. I mean, the guy finished 5th in points this round.
Absolutely.
But I don't, and he could make it past this round too. Great on road courses. He's
super
won on
speedways.
Super speedways.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, to go to the Final Four and win it, Ryan Blaney, obviously,
yes,
can win it. Tyler Reddick only finished 7th in points this round, but he makes it through. He can win it, or no?
Yeah, I think he can win the championship. Absolutely.
William Byron?
Yeah, because they can get hot. And if they can get through that next round, you look at what awaits in round 3, and those are 3 tracks where he is good at, and Martinsville especially. So, yes.
All right. Here's my concern with Byron.
They're streaky.
I mean, it's not even streaky. They just haven't been getting finishes. So he has since, this is dating back to before the Olympic break now. Pocono, he finished 4th. And then since Pocono, he finished 2nd at Michigan. He got a 9th at Atlanta. Those are his only top 10s in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 races.
Mm-hmm.
This round, he went 9th, 34th, 17th. Now 34th was in part at Watkins Glen because he was almost went out of the ballpark. But yeah, I mean, this race almost reminded me a little bit of the Martinsville race last year where he's trying to hang on. He's going backwards and they're starting to panic a little bit, right? Like they're like, oh my gosh, like we got to hang on. Now, of course, he had enough points to make it, but that was a little bit like, yikes. It wasn't inspiring like a lot of confidence.
No, but you don't need finishes. You just need to win. And they can
Joey
win.
Logano, you have said that he can win.
I think he could. I think he can make it to the championship 4. I could see a path. If he can I'm curious to see what speed they have on a 1.5 mile racetrack, because that's going to be the big thing, especially if you get to round 3. But if he can get out of this round, and you look at the last 2 years for Penske, they have done it. They get better and better. I think Logano or Blaney is going to, one of those two are going to be in the championship 4, and I really like Logano.
All right. Here's an interesting one. Denny Hamlin, he finished 10th in points this round. There was nothing to inspire much confidence, but they survived, and so now they get a fresh slate. The Atlanta strategy, whatever, even though we both agreed with it, actually.
It's a smart call.
Most people did not agree with it, though. He got blasted for that. But I think actually it might have gotten him through in a way. He made it by 15. Is that right? Yeah, he made it by 15 points. So if he, tries to race for stage points in stage 1, coming from the back at Atlanta, and gets wrecked and doesn't get the however many points he got that day, maybe he doesn't make it. But maybe he would have had more. But this looked like it could have been one of the biggest collapses ever for a top contending team. now that they've survived, do you feel better about them? Can they win the
Oh,
championship?
they can absolutely win the championship. Absolutely. I mean, they could win. They could win they could win at Talladega or Kansas. It would not be a surprise. And then you go into round 3. They could win at any of those 3 tracks. They could win at Vegas, Homestead, or Martinsville. And they sure as hell can win at Phoenix. Like, they can absolutely win the championship. Are they snake bit a little bit? Absolutely. Have they not had the finishes that correspond with their speed? Yes. Are they to the level they were at? Are they at the same level they were at earlier in the year? No, they're not. But this team is still so good. And while consistency is great and you can point your way to the next round, this team is good enough to win a race. And if that's what they need to do, I feel like they're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm with you, right? Like, they can turn it on, and I wonder if somehow we're looking back on this in November, and you're almost like, man, of all years that he finally did it, this was the weird year where like it seemed like he was just going to keep having bad luck, and it seemed like all things were going to go wrong, and he somehow made it and won and whatever. Like,
Dog
maybe
gets
this
to stay,
is
by the way.
the dog gets to stay. Looks like for at least another week. So yeah, I mean, they're not going to have a ton of points. They don't have much breathing room, but he could absolutely go to Kansas and immediately launch himself in the next round. So yeah. Now below him again, you've got Chase Briscoe and Daniel Suarez. I don't think they can win the title. Again, very impressed with Chase Briscoe, but I don't see them going all the way and being able to put this together in Stuart Haas's swan song. Is that fair?
No. The hell of a story, but no.
Yeah. So it's pretty much the same guys, because I don't think we said that Truex.
No.
Well, did we say Truex could win it before?
I don't know. I felt like we thought he could heat up if they found their form from earlier.
Yeah, I don't think he was in our group though.
I don't.
So
think
essentially,
he kind of faded. We kind of faded him.
Nothing has
Nothing
changed
changes.
after one
we
round.
just wasted 3 weeks of our life for nothing.
That was a big way to say nothing changed.
Yeah. Can we talk about Kyle Larson though, real quick?
Yes.
I think this was a great night for them. Obviously, it was a great night for them, but this was such a statement in a respect that they just showed people, like, when they're on, they're on, and I don't think there's anybody that's even close to them. And I wrote about this when we did our picks for the championship, going in the playoffs. Best driver, arguably the best crew chief, one of the best teams. That is a deadly combination. And so many times this year we have seen it. I've said it over and over again. They've had these blazing fast race cars. They do that more often than not. More than any other team, they come out and they blow the doors off of people, where they're just like, they're not even in the same zip code. And you're like, everyone else is racing for second. Now, what they don't do is always take those fast cars and turn them into wins. But they can do that. And it's like, man, like, there isn't anybody close to them. And I just think that tonight really serves a reminder of just how elite and how dominant this team can be.
Our friend Steven Stump tweeted, with 462 laps led, 462 laps, by the way. Yeah. Kyle Larson had the third most dominant Bristol victory of all time. Cale Yarborough had number 1 and number 2. Yarborough in 1973 led all 500 laps. And in 1977, he led 495 out of 500. So not in my lifetime. I was born in 1980, so nobody's done anything like this at Bristol. Leave it to Kyle Larson to do that. And you're right. I mean, it's sort of just a reminder of like, oh yeah, remember this guy? Mm-hmm. Remember how good they can be when they put it all together in like a great night. You know what I mean?
And they're not crashing. Yeah.
And he has 39 points, I think, to start the next round. I think he's up 39 on the cut line to start the next round is what I'm trying to say. Going
to a racetrack they won at in the spring, where they should be fast again, obviously. Talladega is a little bit of a, if there's a weakness in Larson's game, it's super speedways. And he's won on the Roval before. So those 39 points are going to, if you can get through Kansas unscathed, you feel pretty good about his chances to move forward.
You want a interesting little stat here?
Fire away. What do you got for me?
So this was Larson's 5th win of the season, right?
Yep. Series best.
Yes. This is the second most wins of his career. He had that 10-win season.
Yep.
And then the other seasons that he had, he had 4 wins a couple times. He had 3 wins.
Yeah.
This is the second most wins, he's ever had. So, with still more races to go, obviously.
Yeah.
The guy's not bad. Not a bad driver.
It's pretty good. He's no Max Verstappen, of course.
Well, exactly. And it's so funny how people are so eager to dunk on him after, I think I'm a better all-around driver than Max Verstappen. True, by the way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
And
I don't think it's a debate.
But then, it's like, he crashes since he said that. And, he's done this, he's done nothing. It's like, hey, just a reminder, it's still Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
So
this is what this was tonight.
Yeah. No, I agree. And by the way, what's interesting is he's spaced out his wins this season. Like, like we talk about Byron, he had 3 wins like pretty early in the season, right? Like Denny had his wins early. Like he hasn't won since April. Larson, he won the 3rd race of the season at Vegas. Then he won the closest finish ever at Kansas. He won at Sonoma on the road course in June. He won right before the Olympic break at the Brickyard 400. And then this is the first time he's won since then. So it's sort of like that steady, like, he can win anything. And he could have won a bunch more, but ultimately everything shakes out. He's still in the position that you sort of would have thought he would be in anyway at the start of this year.
I'm looking at his 2021 season, and he had 4 after this race at Bristol, which he had won in 2021. He went on to win 4 more times. So he's kind of on that same realm of, he could conceivably get to 10 again if he really wanted to.
No,
9, 10. If you look at it, he's not going
to win 5 of the last 7 races.
He won 4 of the last 5 in 2021.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying. I mean, he did it. He did it in 2021. Why can't he do it now? I wouldn't bet against him. I wouldn't bet against him. If anybody can do it, it'd be him.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. What else in your notes specifically from this race did you want to talk about?
Hang on. Well, question for you. Do we want to talk about the Xfinity race?
Well, first, I want to talk about the decision of the race, but
okay.
I didn't know if there was something on your list.
No.
All right, let's talk about our key moment or key decision of the race. Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. This segment is sponsored by Safety Culture. Of course, you've been hearing this the last few weeks. Happy to have them on board. The Safety Culture is the workplace operations platform giving teams what they need to get the job done quicker and improve every day. Safety Culture, a better way of working. We're going to talk about, a key decision or a key factor in the race. So to me, even though I just got done saying, I don't know that this was the deciding thing that kept Truex out of the playoffs.
Oh, you're taking my thing.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
You can go first if you want. I'll come on.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Well, just obviously, it was barely speeding, but barely is all it takes. And unfortunately, this is a guy who, is a veteran guy who you would think would not be making mistakes like this. The Darlington mistake, right? Mm-hmm. Like early in the race, in the opening laps, he makes that mistake. Like these are the things that happen when you're like, oh, like let's say this had been a rookie that did those kind of things. You'd be like, well, he'll learn and he'll get better, and veteran guy won't make those mistakes in key moments. These were sort of key things that add up. And, it's as shocking as it is. Cause I was going back tonight and looking at like Truex won 3 races last year. Mm-hmm. And his last win was a pretty dominant New Hampshire win. Right. Mm-hmm. And at the time you're like, well, he's going to come back for another year. And, he's clearly still got it, right? Like he had that winless season the year before where he missed the playoffs, and he comes back in a major way. And you're like, well, he's just going to keep winning, right? Like he hasn't lost anything. And now you get to this point in the year, there's 7 races to go in his full-time career, at least. And you're like, man, like, he had the junk trash playoff run last year that just was a collapse. And then this year has just been so frustrating. He could have won that Richmond race. He was en route to winning it in the spring. Caution comes out. Hamlin jumps the restart. Hamlin wins instead. But, it's like, man, how can this be? But it's just enough mistakes, enough small factors, whether it's his mistakes, the team, whatever. And suddenly, you have a moment like tonight where it looked like he was going to have at least a shot to get in, or at least give himself a chance late in the race to be close to the cut line. And instead he speeds, finishes 24th, missed it on points. By the way, finishes Bristol career with, I think, only 3 top 5 finishes and like 5 top 10s and 35 starts, if I have my numbers correct. Pretty wild, because I think he was way better than that at Bristol, but
he led a lot of laps here, but never got the finishes.
Yeah. So that's my key moment of the race.
It's a really good pick. And I was going to say this.
Oh, we're losing Jordan here. Should I do Jordan's moment for him? Did the internet go down for Jordan?
Struggled.
There you are. Hi, Jordan.
I'm back. They gotta go away.
Yeah. No. Did you know that Kelly Crandall messaged, or she posted on her Instagram story today about there was a sign in the Bristol Media Center, and it was like, hey, make sure nobody streams anything after 6 p.m. in the media center.
Well, what happened is a year ago, Tennessee was playing a football game, and not everybody, but a lot of people were streaming it, and it bogged it down. So this year, Tennessee again was playing a football game, a even bigger one this year, and there was concern of, they wanted to try to nip it in the bud before it became an issue.
Okay, well,
but I will say,
shouldn't Wi-Fi in 2024 be fast enough for everybody to stream what they? I mean, what if people are just streaming the race?
You've been to enough racetracks, Jeff. You know the answer to that question. I can't even get cell phone reception at a lot of racetracks. Like, I'll be, I can't even send a text message. Like, okay. Don't get me. You want to hear me rant? Don't.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
Start your moment over now that you have your internet back.
Yeah. I talked to James Small, Truex crew chief, after the race, and he said this was a microcosm of our season where we've had speed. We've been in position to get good finishes, maybe some wins, and we haven't executed. We keep making mistakes. We shoot ourselves in the foot. So I don't want to piggyback on yours, but I think that really was the definitive one, just because it changed everything. I don't know if I have to pick one moment, a different one, I guess it would be Ty Gibbs, because again, like, he seemed he had a fast race car and he was making moves and putting himself in position to get some points and everything. And his day ended and he was never really able to get back up there and get himself in a position. So that would be my moment. And something else to keep in mind is, like, despite having 36 points in his back pocket and having like just an awful night, Daniel Suarez somehow just snaked his way through and is moving on to the next round.
Well, unlike the internet that you just experienced there, we know that safety culture is a reliable workplace operations tool that gives teams what they need to get the job done quickly and improve every day. But what does that actually mean? Well, obviously, if you're part of a company, a business, a team, etc., efficiency is everything. No matter what you're trying to achieve, no one has time to waste. From construction sites to factory floors, safety culture is designed to drive improvements not just in safety, but broadly across quality and efficiency too. It's all about meeting higher standards by bringing the whole team onto one page, all from their mobile devices, which have great Wi-Fi. But you don't even need that for safety culture, because Safety Culture's app manages everything from pre-race inspections on the car to assembly checks at Trackhouse, even in-house training, all on their very own operations platform. So if you're a team leader, the Safety Culture app can help you get greater visibility across your whole operation so you can make confident decisions fast. If you work behind the scenes, Safety Culture can give you access to the knowledge and tools to ensure your success and help you make every second count. Are you ready to put your workplace in the pole position? Head to safetyculture.com/SVG. That is safetyculture.com/SVG. Well, you want to talk about the Xfinity race before we move on to Kansas. What was that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, this is nowhere near a new opinion, and I don't know how you fix this, and it's obvious it's been this way for a long time. NASCAR, the star power that Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings to NASCAR when he races is unrivaled, and it's so apparent from the driver introductions to just the whole like he makes passes on the racetrack and people are cheering. What other driver does that happen for? There's just this aura, this presence. It's star power. That's the best way to explain it. And it's something that NASCAR is badly lacking in that sense. I there is no answer. This isn't new. It's been this way for a long time, but it just became every time it happened here last year. You were here, you heard it. And I saw it again on Saturday on Friday. And it really drives home the point of like, there is no one else like him. It reminds me of Michael Jordan towards the end of when MJ was at the end of his Bulls years, and everyone's like, who's gonna be the next MJ? Who's gonna be the next MJ? And you can't replicate that, and it's part of it. But for this sport to thrive, to elevate itself, there's a lot of different things that go into it. But one of them, and I think the predominant thing, is star power. Is people have drivers with personalities that fans gravitate towards and connect with. There are drivers who do that to some degree, certainly, but nowhere near Dale Earnhardt Jr. I don't know the answer to that question, but it just really drove it home to me this past weekend.
Yeah, I was torn on whether to bring this up because, after all, we are on a podcast platform owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr. So I don't know if it rings hollow for people. They'll be like, well, of course they say this. Dale Jr., this is his platform. But the points you make are so well put because, man, just like watching his interviews last night, watching, the beers he's having with everybody on pit road.
The tweets, your tweets were like, what other?
The radio chatter, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like your radio, like there is another driver. Like, oh my God, this is like, I can't miss this. This is going to be hilarious and funny and insightful and all of this stuff. It's appointment viewing. I don't know.
Listen, I owe a huge part of my career in a way to Dale Earnhardt Jr. because I was working at NASCAR Scene. My first full-time beat job was at NASCAR Scene magazine, right? I was there for 3 years. And unfortunately, it was sort of the beginning of the end for the print industry. It shut down, right? So I get laid off and I'm like, dang, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know if I can stay as a NASCAR writer anymore. Like literally the next day after I get laid off, I get this call from this company, SB Nation, which you ended up working for as well. We ended up working together there. And they're like, hey, listen, we're thinking of starting up some racing content, some NASCAR stuff. And, we will let you take this a direction you want. Sort of like, we'll give you like a franchise and you have to produce with it. Right. And so you have to deliver on traffic, page views. And, so I was like, okay, how do I do that? Right. Like, how do I get to the races and how do I produce content that is going to make me stand out for this news website and all this stuff. Right. So I decided, at the time, people always said to me, I don't know who originally said this, but it was something that resonated with me. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is like the home team. Like win or lose, people want to know what Dale Jr. did and thought and all this stuff. And at the time, this was 2010, 2011, 2012. It's like those 3 years, like, we didn't have, you didn't have all the kids with the cell phone cameras. You didn't have Bob with his little camera device afterwards. Like, there wasn't podcasts coming out. So a written post about how a driver did with quotes was like extremely unique. So I would go to these races, and this was in the Lance McGrew years and like some really down years for Dale Jr. that it was really struggling. And I would wait by his hauler like week after week, right? Like here he comes at Dover, and he had some disastrous thing happen, and he's super down about it, and finished 20 whatever, and was expecting to do more. And I would stand by the hauler, I'd be the only one there. He would talk, and I would get this story, and it would do great numbers because people wanted to know how he did. There was just a massive, massive amount of interest in him. So I was like almost like a Dale Jr. beat writer. And it really helped at the time me stay afloat and sort of establish myself. And I just remember, I never took that for granted, because I remember telling people at the time, like, you would hear about the golf writers of that era, like complaining like, oh my God, like Tiger Woods is such a jerk to the media. Like, and they just had to just cover him anyway. They had just had to write about everything he said and did anyway, but he treated them like crap, supposedly, back in the day, right? Like, I never covered Tiger, but like, he wasn't a good dude to like deal with at that time. And I just thought, I remember thinking, man, Dale Jr., like, for being the most popular guy, he could treat the media like absolute crap. And we would just have to be like, okay, like, we'll just still put up with it. And because people want to read about it. Right. And it was the opposite. Like, he treated us like gold. He was like the most quotable guy in sports. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is such a golden era. And then as he's retired, and you sort of like forget sort of like how quotable some of those people were. Like, I mean, not to mention too, Jeff Gordon was around then, right? Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick. And then you also had the top drivers of today coming up at the time. So you had Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Logano, Keselowski, and Mark Martin's still around. You have all these guys.
Tony Stewart.
Yeah, no, I said that.
Oh,
so like it's just, there was just incredible. I mean, Jeff Burton, you'd go to Jeff Burton for a quote, be like, oh man, like the mayor, what's he going to say? And there was just this rich personality. It was just the garage was filled with them. And so now there's some distance on that, and you kind of forget about it at times. And then you see like what you're talking about, like the interviews, the radio chatter of Dale coming back in that one race. And you're like, oh my gosh, right. Like, this is what is missing. Like, this was such a golden thing that we had, and it's largely been lost. And it's not, I think the drivers today are good natured and they're cooperative. I don't know if it's just a generational thing where people don't want to put themselves out as much or be as real or be as open. The thing about Dale Jr. was, I always told people that, to me, he was like a normal person trapped in a superstar's life. Like, he would say the things that all of us would say if we were in this situation and got asked questions about it. And, I just think that we talk about generational talents on the racetrack. He was sort of a generational star in that the quotable and the magnetism the pull that he had with people. I had people on Twitter last night going, man, this reminds me, like, this is why I've had trouble connecting to a new driver after he's left. Like, there's nothing like watching him race, and people just identify with him for whatever reason. I never was one of the people that believed that his popularity long-term was about his dad, right? Because sure, that helped him get a start. That was a big boost, but it was how he talked and reacted to things well into his career that made people gravitate toward him. So yeah, man, that was really cool. Just one more quick thing. I remember one time, so Dale would, like I would say, he would always talk after races, right? And one time it was a Richmond race, and his PR person said, it was like a really bad night or something. Like, oh yeah, he's not wanting to talk. And I was like, what? I was standing there. I was like, really? Man, he always talks. So I left, right? And then I think I tweeted something like, Dale Jr., or maybe I put it in a story. I don't know. This might have been even pre-Twitter or early Twitter, before he was on it anyway. And so I say like, Dale Jr. declined comment through a representative or something like that, right? So I get back home or something. I think maybe I drove back home, then flew. Anyway, I get this email in like the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. from this email address. And it's like, hey, this is Dale Jr. Mike gave me your email address, and I just want to apologize because I would never disrespect you or any of your colleagues. I didn't know you guys were waiting out there, and it was a miscommunication. And so can you please do me a favor and apologize to any other media that might have been out there that I missed, and I'll make sure to get you guys next time. And I just thought, man, like the 30th place driver wouldn't do that and try to make it up to the media if they thought they blew you up. But the most popular guy is like, yeah, like this is important to me to have this relationship. So long rant there, but thanks for bringing that up, because I wasn't sure if I should talk about this on a Dale Earnhardt Jr. owned platform. But, this is, that was a very big reminder during that race of like, oh yeah, this is how it used to be. And that was also during the time when NASCAR was at its peak. I don't know if that's a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. And again, I'm not saying this as a criticism against today's driver, because I think there's a lot of personalities. I just don't know how you make that connection between the personalities that are in the sport now, who I think are good, and where fans latch onto them. And, there's this sea change. Now, generational drivers, much like generational athletes, whether it's a Tiger Woods or like, they don't come along all the time. Like, you're just not going to have that. And golf is struggle as well. But you do need that galvanizing force that people just get behind. And I don't know what that is. So we'll see.
Yep. All right. Kansas next week.
Yep.
Very, very excited. Coming off the closest finish in NASCAR history with Chris Buescher and Kyle Larson. And by the way, like that race in general was just top tier. Not only top tier, like I'm not just saying that, but it's actually the number one race in the good race poll of all time. Out of the 300, what did I say earlier? 329 races, Kansas spring race is number one at 95.8% from earlier this year. It topped 3 of the Bristol races that had previously been up there. So will we get a repeat? I don't know, but I'm certainly excited to find out. And the next round is going to be really, really fun. This is sort of a big opportunity for any of those drivers, Jordan, that don't really want to deal with Talladega and the Roval. They don't want to leave their fate up to that. You've got a great shot here to go out and just have a straight up race. And by the way, that race is crazy though. That race can be nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So the restarts there are nuts. And it's going to be a blast. I'm really excited. I hope it's a huge crowd, because that place deserves all the love, in my opinion.
Great. It's arguably the best track on the schedule. A couple things to keep in mind. This is a strong suit for Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing. They typically run well here. They typically win races here. That continues. To your point, it's going to advance them forward to put them in a good spot. Tyler Reddick struggled uncharacteristically here, finished 20th. This has long been, I shouldn't say long because the team hasn't been around that long, but 2311 has ran well here, usually year in and year out. They did not run well in the spring. That was a bit of a shocker. They left here a little confounded. Did they figure out what they were missing? Do they have more speed, or does our regular season points champion going to find himself in a bad spot leaving Kansas? Also, I'm very curious to watch, mentioned earlier, does the Penske Fords, do they come to play? This has been their thing the last few years, making gains. And did they make gains to where they can put themselves, they don't need to go there and win, but if they can, Blaney or Logano can finish top 10, that's going to put them in a really good spot going into a super speedway race and then the Roval. So those are the things I'm watching.
And also we'll talk about next week how, we talked about a Las Vegas race earlier this year, jumping to conclusions about who was good and all that stuff. This will actually be quite a great test for 2 very important tracks coming up in round 3, which are Las Vegas and Homestead. So if you can run well at Kansas, that really could translate. And so we'll see who has the strength. It should be a great test of all around power. Very much looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll at least start the podcast in a better mood next week. All right, everybody. Thanks as always for listening. And we will talk to you next time on The Teardown. See you, everybody.